Nestle has a bloody history of killing babies. The corporation was heavily protested against during the 1970s for their hyper-aggressive marketing of their baby formula to new mothers. The damage from this was multifold. The first being that in order for this campaign to succeed, Nestle had to market the living shit out of their baby formulas. So they spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt about breast milk while talking their artificial baby formula up as if they were the third coming of Christ, which is dangerously misleading. In fact, the World Health Organization describes breast milk as something akin to a silver bullet to save infant lives, recommending that a newborn should be exclusively fed with breast milk for the first 6 months of its life. Currently, only 37% of newborns under 6 months old in medium and low income countries are exclusively breastfed. In fact, a 2016 report from The Lancet found that as many as 823,000 otherwise dead infants could have been saved every single year if their mothers had simply breastfed instead of using baby formula. There are a couple reasons for this. The first being that we currently live in a time where 1/3 of the entire global population doesn't have access to clean drinking water. Clean water is needed to mix with the baby formula powder to make clean baby formula. A mother who lives in a community whose water sources are contaminated with lead and E. coli would be feeding their infant lead and E. coli every time they used baby formula. Breast milk is a completely safe source of nutrition for the infant, and more importantly, the hormone exchanges between the mother and the baby during the feeding process triggers the breast milk to produce the exact nutrients the baby needs in the precise quantities the baby needs. According to that same report from The Lancet, breastfeeding is a surefire way to increase a baby's intelligence and protection against infection, as well as decrease their risk of diabetes. No connection whatsoever has been made between a breastfed baby and that baby later developing allergies, asthma, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or any other fear-mongering conspiracy that Nestle will often allude to. If a newborn drinks baby formula instead of mommy's milkies, then the mother's body will gradually stop lactating. And when that happens, she'll be forced to only feed her newborn with store-bought baby formula. There just isn't any other alternative at that point. This is how Nestle made their money from the aggressive baby formula marketing campaign. Get the infants on baby formulas nice and early, so the mother will be forced to spend the little amounts of money she has on overpriced baby formula when she stops lactating. It isn't too dissimilar to how some heroin dealers will give free samples away to lure in new customers, so that when the new customer gets addicted to the heroin, they'll be forced to keep buying more and more from the only drug dealer they know. Wow, congratulations Nestle. You just stole play right out of the drug dealing handbook. On top of all of this, the vast majority of the mothers who received the free samples of baby formula were illiterate, and as such weren't able to read the instructions for proper use or all the safety warnings about not using dirty water to make the baby formula. Not that it honestly would have made much of a difference though, since the Nestle executives evidently forgot that people in different countries speak different languages and neglected to translate the instructions to the local language. All of this formed the perfect recipe for infanticide. Mothers were getting sucked into using baby formula instead of the superior breast milk. The baby formula was made with dirty water, completely destroying their teeny tiny newborn bodies. And on top of that, the mothers couldn't even switch from the Nestle baby formula to breastfeeding when they realized the dangers, because their bodies had already been weaned off. It's unknown exactly how many babies were killed during this period, but according to Nestle, it evidently wasn't enough, because half a century later, they're still aggressively marketing baby formula to mothers living in impoverished countries. The company is still using the tried and true method of giving free baby formula samples away to new mothers in impoverished countries. Not exactly surprising, just a classic example of if it ain't broke, then don't fix it. But in other areas, they've definitely modernized their marketing with new 21st century tactics like creating new mom messaging and social media groups to spread awareness of their products, along with healthcare workers being lavished with gifts on top of paid commissions on the baby formulas sold to trusting mothers. Was Nestle maybe inspired by Purdue Pharma? Purdue Pharma infamously used similar tactics to aggressively market OxyContin, which led to the deadly opioid crisis that the country is still reeling from. Maybe they were inspired by Purdue Pharma, maybe they weren't. But they probably were, because more than half of the 8,500 parents surveyed by the World Health Organization said that they were victims of aggressive baby formula marketing from companies like Abbott, Kraft, Hain, and yes, Nestle. These surveyed parents aren't all condensed into one little area either. The marketing campaigns from companies like Nestle are global. The surveyed people were from places like China, Bangladesh, Mexico, Nigeria, South Africa, Morocco, and Vietnam. Not even the Brits were spared from this aggressive marketing. And breaking the countries down, 97% of the women surveyed in China were recently exposed to aggressive baby formula marketing, as were 92% of the surveyed Vietnamese women, some of whom saw ads in bus stations. That's foreshadowing for later. More than a third of the women throughout the surveyed countries were even recommended a specific brand of baby formula by a healthcare worker. This is also foreshadowing for later. It's all highly unethical behavior through and through. And it's precisely these types of aggressive marketing campaigns which convince mothers not to breastfeed. Nestle knows this. They've known for at least half of a century, but they just simply do not care about the damages that they're causing. Nestle has to know about the predatory nature of their activities because the World Health Organization established the International Code of Marketing Breast Milk Substitutes in 1981 in order to regulate the ways in which baby formula can be advertised as a direct response to the scandals that broke out in the 1970s against Nestle. Let's just do a quick rundown of some of the acts forbidden by the code. No public advertisements of infant feeding products in public places like highway billboards, subway stations, and bus stations. Remember when I foreshadowed this 40 seconds ago? Only ads with scientific and factual information are permitted, meaning no ads that pretend that baby formula is the optimal choice and that breast milk will damage the baby's health. No free samples to health professionals or mothers. This rule is obviously there to stop companies from buying loyalty, but we already know that it's still happening anyway, so moving on to the next rule. No items with the company's logo are allowed for baby care staff. This regulation is clearly to avoid the appearance of an expert recommending one brand over another. But we've already discussed how thousands of women surveyed were name-dropped specific companies to buy baby formula from healthcare workers. So even though the companies may not have explicitly broken the guideline by giving away t-shirts with the Nestle logo on it, for example, they still broke the spirit of those guidelines when the healthcare workers started recommending one kind of baby formula over another. And finally, no marketing to mothers of newborns aged 0 to 6 months old at all. 0 ads are permitted. But Nestle is still very much advertising baby formula to mothers with newborns aged 0 to 6 months. Marie Messier is the global head of food and industry affairs as well as a VP at Nestle. And she publicly stated that the company will continue to promote baby formulas to mothers of newborns under 6 months old until at least the end of 2022. Nestle has already been doing this for at least half a century, and I somehow doubt that they're going to follow through with this end-of-year commitment. Much like how the company couldn't even keep their promises to stop deforesting our trees and to use ethically sourced palm oil for their chocolate. But that's a potential video for another day. If you'd like to see it when and if it gets made, then remember to subscribe and hit the like button down below. And just for the heck of it, go drop a comment down below on what a disgusting, psychopathic shit stain you think the Marie Messiers of the world are.